All right, Shio. Welcome to the Red Road East. I'm your host, Fierce Truth Seeker. All right. Yeah, so we are back. And again, I apologize for the background and not having all of the fancy background visuals and things of that nature. But, you know, I am not at home. I'm visiting family and I'm just here in one of the rooms. So, you know, we're just doing it raw dog right now. All right. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about Marcus Garvey. All right. And we don't have the StreamYard tonight. We are doing YouTube live because the StreamYard account is at its maximum in terms of the amount of hours that they give you for usage without a paid subscription. Okay. So, until we get it financially more ready, for right now, we just have to do it this way, and then at some point we'll have a paid StreamYard account. Okay. Give me 1 second. So I won't be able to share any documents with you. I don't know. Maybe there is a way that you can on YouTube Live, but I don't know how to do it. But I will read from some documents. Okay, and so let's get started. Let me see here. Let me go on the other computer here, and what I want to do is let me see how many people we have here that are tuning in. Let's see. Got two people watching. All right. It'll be recorded anyway. It'll be up for people to check out at a later time. And if anybody has any questions and concerns and things of that nature, feel free, to leave those in the discussion and, you know, take it from there. All right. So let me see here. Let me just pull up a couple of documents to share. Let's see here. So again, we're talking about Marcus Garvey. And with Marcus Garvey, it's a lot of different elements to the UNIA and a lot of different, how should I say it? There's many different points of view regarding Garvey. And a lot of people that are speaking on Garvey today, they're speaking mostly from one perspective. And as they say, there's always two sides to a story. So you can't get your information one sided. And it just so happens that the fierce truth seeker has the other sides that are missing in many people's presentations. Okay. And that is due to my involvement as a youth with the one of the Garvey organizations back in the days. Okay. So give me 1 second here. I want to pull up a couple of documents. Again, you won't be able to see them because we're not on the StreamYard. We'll be able to do more StreamYards, but they only give me but a certain amount of hours per month. And so the next time that we will be doing a StreamYard, that will be in June, the 5th of June. My hours kick back in. Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm just pulling up these documents, which again, you won't be able to see, but I will be able to read from these documents. So what we want to do, there's been a lot of questions and concerns about Marcus Garvey and things that he's been accused of, such as mail fraud and things of that nature. Okay. All of which is untrue. Okay. Those things are untrue. And wait, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'm looking for a document here. And then we will proceed. Let's see, where is it? Oh, that would be notes. Let me see. Notes. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Pulling up my notes. And I think I'll put this on the desktop. Okay. Desktop, save. Okay. Open when done. How y'all doing? Y'all all right? Let me see how many people are in the chat. Yeah, at some point I'm going to stop doing these lives because the Fierce Truth Seeker has a lot of business to take care of. And, it gets a little bit, not that I don't want to do this here, but it's just a lot of other things that I neglect to do when I do these lives and things of that nature. So, I'm going to be kind of curbing some of this stuff. And, I won't be discontinuing. I'll just be not doing them as frequent. I will be doing them regularly, but, I'll be also doing other things. Okay. So now, good. So, Marcus Garvey and the UNIA. So, Garvey has really been accused of a lot. And I'm not to say that, and I'm not a hero worshiper, and I'm not saying that Garvey is a saint, that Garvey was a saint or anything. I don't worship Garvey. I don't worship any of these leaders, past or present. However, it is important to not paint an inaccurate image of these great ones who came before us. Okay. So let's see here. Let me start with, let me see. Let me just pull something up here. I'm just looking through some of my notes so that I don't leave anything out of this presentation. And we'll go for about maybe 30 minutes and then we'll cut it. Okay. 30 minutes from the time I start this presentation. So that'll be like, when in other words, what I mean, 30 minutes from right now. Okay. So let's see. We dealt with, and some people have been asking very good questions. You know, I thank y'all who've asked questions and had concerns about this whole Garvey thing, you know, because they're very good questions. Okay. Very good questions. And definitely, I like when you come with your questions, because when you have a question, a lot of times there are others who have those same questions. Okay. So, what I want to do now is look at a timeline. You want to look at a timeline. So, Marcus Garvey has been accused of using the Black Cross nurses as part of the Tuskegee experiment. Okay. And again, like I said before, this particular conversation of Marcus Garvey, what inspired me to make this a part of the Moors and Indians discussion. It originally was not supposed to be a part of the discussion, okay? Because there was really no need, because it never came up of God before, you know, it never came up as a need to be discussed, you know, because it was always a matter of Garvey being someone who is a forerunner of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, okay? And as the forerunner, he was like the John the Baptist to herald in the coming of the Prophet, who started his movement to resurrect the dead nation of those ancient ones here on the land. Okay. And so I was inspired to do this as part of the Moors and Indians, just due to that, because Prophet Noble Drew Ali, a Moor, Marcus Garvey being taught by a Moor, okay, and it definitely fits into the whole Moorish paradigm, okay. And so I was inspired to make it a part of this discussion because of a long, heated debate with a very dear friend of mine. We're screaming at each other at the top of our lungs about whether or not Garvey as it is or was an agent. I'm saying that he wasn't. The other individual saying that he was. And so that's why I said, well, let me gather all that I know about Garvey and put it into a presentation in an organized manner. Okay. And so one of the things that has been discussed is Garvey and the Black Cross nurses, and the Black Cross nurses being used to work with the Red Cross nurses. Okay. Now, this is totally inaccurate. Okay. This is totally inaccurate. And anyone who believes such does not understand the chronology of events. Okay. And when you look at the chronology of events of that time, okay, because they're also saying that Garvey and Booker T. Washington had a fallout because Garvey didn't come and speak out about the Tuskegee experiment, and Garvey had a fallout with Booker T. Washington over the whole thing with the Black Cross nurses. And see, again, when people say things like that, I know that they haven't studied Garvey. They haven't read any of the material having to do with Garvey in terms of like any of the books, like the Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, which is like the Bible of Marcus Garvey and his organization, or any of the other major works on Marcus Garvey, particularly the body of work that was put out by Tony Martin, the late, great Tony Martin. Okay. So it's impossible for this to be true because, number one, Garvey was inspired to come to North America and to do what he did by Booker T. Washington. Okay. And he wanted to come to North America to be able to meet with Booker T. Washington and collaborate. Okay. And he was inspired and wanted to duplicate what Booker T. Washington was doing, his vision and things of that nature. Okay. However, he was not able to meet with Booker T. Washington because Booker T. Washington passed away before Marcus Garvey came here. Okay. So how could Marcus Garvey and Booker T. Washington have had a fallout over Tuskegee and this, that, and the other? And people are saying he came to Tuskegee and, and Booker T. Washington got mad because he didn't do this and that. You guys don't even understand the timeline. You guys don't even know that Booker T. Washington was not even alive when Garvey got here. Okay, so let alone you don't understand the timeline of when the Black Cross nurses was even formed, or the purpose for the Black Cross nurses to be formed. Okay, people are saying that Garvey started the Black Cross nurses to do experiments, and again, these are people who I really, like I said, I feel that there are some people who sincerely may have overlooked certain things in their research regarding Marcus Garvey. And on the flip side, there's got to be, I mean, there are some people that speak on Marcus Garvey that I feel are just making this stuff up intentionally, because it's impossible to put out a whole lot of an overabundance, should I say, of misinformation, you know, not when almost everything that you're saying is inaccurate. You know, it's got to be intentional. And again, I feel that there are some who were sincere in their research. And if you are sincere in your research, then know that I am not talking about you. Okay? So, anyway, the Black Cross nurses did not have anything to do with the Tuskegee experiment, nor did they have anything to do with the Spanish flu, doing experiments and experimenting on people with the Spanish flu and encouraging them to take vaccines and things of that nature. That's ridiculous. And it's totally inaccurate because, first of all, if you knew the timeline, the Spanish flu epidemic took place in 1918. Okay. And it had about, it lasted for a couple of years. Okay. From 1918 to 1918 to 1919. Okay. 1918 to 1919. Okay. It didn't go away after 1919, but the pandemic or plandemic was in that time span, the time space of 1918 to 1919. After that, the cases were insignificant. Okay. Now, for those of you who understood anything about the Black Cross nurses, okay, the Black Cross nurses was not formed until 1920. Okay, 1920. And I don't like to just talk, so I'm going to read a document here. Okay, and it says here the Spanish flu of 1918. The Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, the deadliest in history, infected an estimated 500 million people worldwide, about 1/3 of the planet's population, and killed an estimated 20 million to 50 million victims, including some 675,000 Americans. The 1918 flu was first observed in Europe, the United States, and parts of Asia before vaccines, I'm sorry, the 1918 flu was first observed in Europe, the United States, and parts of Asia before swiftly spreading around the world. At the time, there were no effective drugs or vaccines to treat this killer strain. Citizens were ordered to wear masks. Schools, theaters, and businesses were shuttered, and bodies of piled up and bodies piled up in makeshift morgues before the virus ended its deadly global march. Okay? And it lasted between 1 and 2 years. The pandemic is probably right, more right, pandemic. The pandemic occurred in 3 waves, though not simultaneously around the globe. In the Northern Hemisphere, the first wave originated in the spring of 1918 during World War I. Once those measures were relaxed, however, a third wave began in the winter and early spring of 1919. Though not as deadly as the second wave, the third wave still claimed a large number of lives. By the summer, the virus had run its course in many parts of the world, but some historians suggest that there was a fourth wave in the winter of 1920, though it was far less virulent. Okay, so by the summer of 1919, the virus had already run its course. Okay, Black Cross nurses wasn't even formed yet. So how could Garvey have used Black Cross nurses for the Spanish flu? And the Black Cross nurses weren't even formed at the time when the Spanish flu had already run its course. Let alone the fact that Booker T. Washington, how could he have gotten in a argument with Booker T. Washington over the Spanish flu and using the Black Cross nurses to inject people for the Spanish flu and the Tuskegee experiment? You know, people don't even know the difference between all of this stuff. They're just lumping, it's just a big soup of just anything randomly thrown together. And, these events have nothing to do with each other. Okay. Again, that's what happens when people don't read. How could Booker T. Washington have gotten in an argument with Marcus Garvey over the Spanish flu? And Booker T. Washington was like already dead like 3 years before the Spanish flu even occurred. I mean, really? And people don't even fact check this stuff. It's just like anything goes nowadays. Anybody can just say anything, and no one even asks for proof. You just take what anyone says as gospel truth just because it's a personality that you like. I don't even want you to take what I say for gospel truth. Research behind what I say. Come back to me and say, hey, this don't make sense. And if it doesn't, I'll look at it and say, hey, you know what? You're right. It don't make sense. Let's scrap that. I don't have an ego problem like that. If I overlook something, just look at it, trash it if it needs to be trashed, and take it from there. Okay, that's why I always make sure I produce the receipts so that you could go and fact check for yourself. And then you research behind that and made sure I did proper cross-referencing. Okay, so anyway, moving on. Black Cross nurses. Let's go up. Let me scroll up. I guess everybody's asleep tonight. I have like 2 people in the chat. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up this other document. Okay, Black Cross nurses. Okay, the Black Cross nurses. And you can pull this document up at HTT. Oh, before I go on, give me 1 second. I'm going to leave something in the chat. And for those who are generous enough to leave a donation, I'm leaving a Cash App where you can Cash App in the chat. And it's there. Okay. Much appreciated for, if you can. No big deal. Anyway, so this particular document you can access on the Black Cross Nurses, https://www.unitedgovernment.com/about the number 2/black-cross-nurses/. Okay. It says the lead up to the Black Cross nurses is the 1918 flu pandemic that Honorable Marcus Garvey realized left Africans medically unprotected and defenseless. And don't get caught up in the semantics, okay? This is just the word they were using of the day, okay? As much as the concept of a hands-on medical first aid organization was developed, Lady Henrietta Vinton Davis first learned of the work of the Honorable Marcus Garvey and the UNIA while traveling the Caribbean in 1917 and 1918. She was so impressed with Garveyism that in 1920, at the age of 60, she gave up her stage career to work full-time for the UNIA. She would become the organization's first international organizer, a director of the Black Star Line, and a second vice president of the Negro Factories Corporation. She was also of the signatories of the Declaration of the Rights of the Negro Peoples of the World at the UNIA ACL First International Convention in New York City in August 1920. Most importantly, she founded the Universal Black Cross Nurses in Philadelphia in 1920. The Black Cross Nurses served as the women's auxiliary of the UNIA, placing women in a supportive role, while the men's auxiliary, the African Legion, served as a protective role. Served in a protective role. Marcus Garvey wanted everyone in the UNIA. So in other words, the African Legion was like the FOI today. Matter of fact, that's where that comes from. Okay, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was part of the Garvey movement. So the African Legion was like the UNIA, except that was before the I'm bugging. I'm sleepy now. I got to go to bed soon. The African Legion was like the NOI of the Nation of Islam. Okay, except the African Legion of Marcus Garvey was before the NOI. Okay, so that's what the NOI, that's what the African Legion was for the UNIA. Okay, it says the African Legion served in a protective role. Mr. Garvey wanted everyone in the UNIA to feel they belonged within the organization, and the Black Cross nurse served that purpose for women. In 1922, Garvey and three other UNIA officials were charged with mail fraud involving the Black Star Line. And of course, that was nonsense. He was charged, it was a trumped up charge of fraud, of mail fraud, okay, in a kangaroo court. Okay, that's what that was. Okay, so it says here, so it says here, involving the Black Star Line, records, the trial records indicate several improprieties occurred in the prosecution of the case. It didn't help that the shipping line's books contained many accounting irregularities. On June 23rd, 1923, Garvey was convicted and sentenced to prison for 5 years, claiming to be a victim of a politically motivated miscarriage of justice. Garvey appealed his conviction but was denied. In 1927, he was released from prison and deported to Jamaica. So people saying that Garvey up and left and, you know, left Booker T. Washington and all this stuff is nonsense. I mean, where do people get this information from? Okay, Garvey was deported. It wasn't his choice to leave. Okay, it was not his choice to leave. And Booker T. Washington was long dead at this time. So I don't know where people are getting their information from. I mean, you know, the internet can be very dangerous, because you can Google and wiki stuff and any idiot can come up with a wiki page. Okay. And got someone in the chat. Hey, this is boy, my eyes, pardon me. Let me see if I can see on the bigger screen here who we have that's joined in. And I thank you for joining in. Let me see who we have here. Okay, I can see better on this computer. Lotso's Revenge. What was he then? LOL. What do you mean by what was he then? Lotso's Revenge. For clarity's sake, are you talking about something in reference to what I just read? I'm just trying to get some clarity. If you could type that in the chat to clarify so that I can maybe shed some light on what you're trying to ask, would be greatly appreciated. So hold on. Yeah, if you can clarify that. In the meantime, I'll just continue on until you can type that in for us. So anyway, so what was I saying here? So people are just, I don't know where people are getting their information from, So it says here, Garvey continued his political activism and the work of UNIA in Jamaica, and then moved to London in 1935. Okay, so people are saying Garvey up and left here and went to London, they don't know what they're talking about. He was deported, okay, and they deported him to Jamaica, okay. Later on, he went to London, okay, but he couldn't come back here, okay. So it says here, but he did not command the same influence he had earlier, perhaps in desperation or maybe in delusion. Garvey collaborated with outspoken segregationist and white supremacist Senator Theodore Bilbo of Mississippi to promote a reparations scheme. The Greater Liberia Act of 1939 would deport 12 million African Americans to Liberia at federal expense to relieve unemployment. The act failed in Congress, and Garvey lost even more support among the black population. Okay, so now we want to look at the Tuskegee timeline. Okay, so let's now look at the Tuskegee timeline with the Tuskegee experiment. Okay, so it says in 1932, the USPHS, working with the Tuskegee Institute, began a study to record the natural history of syphilis. It was originally called the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male, now referred to as the USPHS Syphilis Study at Tuskegee. The study initially involved 600 black men, 399 with syphilis, 201 who did not have the disease. Participants' informed consent was not collected. Researchers told the men they were being treated for bad blood, a local term used to describe several ailments, including syphilis, anemia, and fatigue. In exchange for taking part in the study, the men received free medical exams, free meals, and burial insurance. By 1943, penicillin was the treatment of choice for syphilis and becoming widely available, but the participants in the study were not offered treatment. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this now. So people are saying Marcus Garvey and Booker T. Washington got into it over the Tuskegee experiment. And the Spanish flu. Number one, these two events don't even coincide with each other. This is 1932. The Spanish flu was in 1918. Okay. Furthermore, Booker T. Washington died in 1914, 1915, either 1914 or 1915. 1915, I believe. Okay, 1915, he passed away. Okay, so how could him and Garvey have gotten into anything? Number one, he didn't even get a chance to meet Booker T. Washington in person. Number two, how could him and Booker T. Washington have gotten into any type of argument over any of these events when, number one, Booker T. Washington made transition before the Spanish flu, years before the Spanish flu even hit. let alone the Tuskegee experiment. That was way after. That's like, you're talking about like damn near 18 years after Booker T. Washington made transition for the Tuskegee experiment. Okay. So again, you have to get your timeline straight. And people are coming to me and bringing this stuff up, bringing stuff up to me that have nothing to do with each other. Okay. All right. So people saying Marcus Garvey is an agent and they have no proof. Lotus Revenge, Lotso's Revenge. People are making accusations and they have no proof. If you're going to make an accusation, you have to have evidence. You can't just talk. You have to have evidence. Okay? And, it's not enough to just do a wiki search. It's not enough to just listen to what so-and-so said and so-and-so, such and such said, and these things of this nature. Okay? You have to do competent research. All right? And on that note, I think we will close out because we're at that half-hour mark now. I think we got started about 11 minutes. What was it, like 11? I'm bugging. Let me see, what time was it that we got started? We got started about 30 minutes ago. More than 30 minutes ago. And I said we'd go for like about half an hour from the time that I started doing the presentation. So I'll be coming back and doing another part to this because, again, I got hours and hours and hours more of information on Marcus Garvey proving his innocence. Okay. And it's irrefutable. There's no question. This is lecture number, let me see what number this is. Give me 1 second. Let me see what number we're on now. Let's see. Let me see what number we're on with this Garvey thing. We're on the 8th. This is the 8th lecture that I've done with Moors and Indians, just on Marcus Garvey alone. And each lecture, I'm proving Garvey's innocence. Okay? So, and I try to make sure that every time I do a presentation, I answer, any questions and concerns that people have. Hold on, let me turn off this air condition because it's freezing in here now. Give me 1 second. And I may share one more thing with y'all. Let me see. Hold on, let me see. I might go 5 more minutes. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is lecture number 8. So we've proven Garvey to be innocent of all charges. Even if I don't do any more lectures on Garvey, I've already proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that he is innocent of the charges. Okay? And the next time we will deal with some other aspects. We'll probably deal with, I actually am going to have a guest to come in and speak on Garvey. I'm not going to say who that guest is, okay, but it's going to bring it even more. It's going to make it even more concrete. They'll just basically be co-signing on what I'm saying, but it's going to be real good in terms of who this guest will be. Okay, again, see, when the fierce truth seeker does the research, the fierce truth seeker really digs in. Okay, and like an archaeologist, I go digging up the truth, digging all the way to the roots. You can't just do a little surface research. You got to dig deep. You've got to dig deep. Okay, and I see again a couple of more people joining in, and please, those who are just joining in, hit the like button, and it helps to get the information out. It helps the algorithm and things. Oh, you need something?
No, I think Watson's ready to come up today.
Oh, she can go?
Oh.
Yeah. And yeah, so, it helps with the algorithm, this, that, and the other. And, I'm bringing you responsible scholarship, responsible scholarship, so that when you go out before the world, you don't sound like a fool when you present information. Okay? And because believe you me, you start saying some of this stuff to the wrong people, they are going to clown you big time. Okay? They're going to clown you big time. Let's see what else I can share with y'all before I go. Let's see what else. Let me see. Let's see what else I can share. We got to. Oh, we shared that already? Okay, cool. Oh. Right. So, yeah. Another thing that people bring up in regards to Marcus Garvey, and people also ask, did Marcus Garvey kill Mother Kofi? And that's not true either. Okay. And when I do the next presentation, I will show you how that is not true as well. Okay. He did not kill Mother Kofi. Okay. And we'll probably take a look at a little more in depth with the trumped up charge of mail fraud, which was totally false, that they accused Garvey of. Okay. And I'll look back at the comment section from the time when we started to see if there were any questions from the chat that I had missed. And, we'll take it from there. Okay. But we'll go if no one else has any questions or concerns. Okay. I think we'll just, call it a night on that. I think I've done a pretty thorough job at proving Garvey's innocence of these charges. Okay. And I don't think there's anyone else with any questions or concerns on that. Okay. And I'll say until the next time, Doda dog,